That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about
Ash.
the sophomore film directed by Flying Lotus, aka Stephen Elliott, which just had its premiere at the 2025 South by Southwest Film Festival. RLJE and Shudder are releasing it theatrically March 21st, 2025.
Directorial debut.
Sophomore film.
Oh, do you know their first film?
It was called Kuso from 2017, which I did not see. Notably, he is a record producer, rapper, multi-hyphenate.
Individual.
Yes.
What is Ash about? A woman wakes up on a distant planet and finds the crew of her space station viciously killed. Her investigation into what happened sets in motion a terrifying chain of events.
Okay, investigation is a strong word for what's happening here.
Well, it's just the IMDb premise.
Sure.
What's your pull quote?
Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. This lo-fi sci-fi has narrative rust.
Damn. Mine. Decadent visuals and a killer score aren't enough to transport Ash above its paper-thin derivative plot.
I mean, you could say that in space, no one can hear you snooze, is how I felt. Because this is a sleepy movie. Again, I agree about the killer score, which of course Flying Lotus supplied himself. The sound design and the music are great, but maybe would have benefited a music video.
Yeah, in fact, the score reminded me, Enigma had an album back in 2000 called The Screen Behind the Mirror. And it was giving me some of that, which I really like. But I also used to use that music to study and fall asleep to. I had a really hard time the first 45 minutes of this film.
The first 45 minutes feel very thin.
And the screening we were at, the director spoke beforehand and said, if anyone doesn't like the film, shut the up. So, sorry.
I mean,
this one was hard to get through for me.
I want to like things that I see. It's not that it just was really sleepy. And also, I don't know that I would say it's derivative, but it's certainly paying homage to a lot of past masters, which we'll get into.
The story is very basic. This woman named Riya,
played by Eiza González.
She wakes up and it's like the premise said, the entire crew she was with was killed. So she's kind of walking around. I wouldn't call it an investigation. She seems like she's in a daze. And then as she's walking around, she is having these flashes that show her and the audience that people were brutally killed.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, this man pops up, played by Aaron Paul.
Brian.
And he's saying like, girl, I was part of your crew. I don't remember you. Well, I was. Like, let's get our shit together. But she's skeptical of him.
Yeah, and I think it's explained that he was orbiting around, so that's why he wasn't there when shit went down.
But ultimately, we see that as her memory starts to come back, that there is a life form on this planet. The alien life form would be these humans. But there is an inhabitant. And it's like a parasite type creature that basically infected her.
It's gaslighting her.
She killed all those people. And Aaron Paul's also infected, but he's being controlled by the parasite, which are highly intelligent beings. There's kind of a final showdown where she ends up killing Aaron Paul's character. But we find out because we can hear the alien in her mind telling her that basically like, y'all are not going to come here and take over our planet. In fact, we're going to use you. And since humans are so inefficient, we only needed one of you. So we had you kill the rest of them, and we're going to use you for our bidding. But then throughout the film, we see that there's this machine that's like you see it in every sci-fi movie.
Like a surgery bot.
A surgery bot that I believe speaks Japanese.
But you can read its text in English.
And it provides the comedic relief because it has these sort of silly graphics on it. But Riya uses this machine to excise the parasite. So in the very end, it seems like she is free from the alien creature and might get off the planet. The end.
Yeah, there we go. And actually, that probably sounds more interesting than it ultimately plays out.
Yeah, because the first half is just a lot of really cool visuals. It was kind of giving me, if you mix The Cell, like those dream sequences in The Cell, with like the first Alien movie. combined with what you said was like an 80s sort of like schlocky sci-fi film.
Yeah, there were visuals that make me think never-ending story, but I think that had this been released, direct to VHS, DVD in the 90s, it would have been more celebrated because the visuals also kind of feel a little bit archaic even for a sci-fi film. But again, that could be part of its charm if everything else was kind of living up to being interesting. And I think Alien, of course, is one of many references, including with that surgery bot, because that's very much Alien 3 when Ellen Ripley, Sigourney Weaver, sees that she's impregnated with the alien.
The highlight of the screening for me was that Jimmy Jam was at the screening. Hence my Janet Jackson lyric t-shirt.
He clocked your velvet rope shirt as
And
well.
I was wearing a velvet rope shirt at the screening, which he saw. But yeah, so the film's very dark.
Initially, I thought, because as we're trying to piece together what's going on with Riya, and you see, it's like you see her shadow self. I'm like, oh, we're getting into an existential Plato's allegory of the cave kind of thing. And then, we watch this beautiful woman sobbing a lot. I'm like, okay, Tarkovsky, Solaris. And then Event Horizon came to mind. And then it's just like...
But to be clear, when I say dark, I mean lighting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I can't... When the director introduced the film, he said to whomever was handling the projector and the sound, like, turn it up. Mm-hmm. So clearly the score is a big part of the film. I can't imagine watching this like at home streaming. It would, like, if you are going to watch this, it has to be in a theater because of how dark the visuals are, like the lighting, and because of how important the sound is. If I had to watch this at home on my couch, I for sure would have fallen asleep.
And also the score kind of doesn't start pumping up till about the midway point either.
Then I think the woman playing Riya is beautiful.
Mm-hmm. We've reviewed her in a few things, including Ambulance. I feel like Adria Arjona is getting the roles Eiza González should be also slated for.
I don't like to say that she's too pretty. Like, what does that mean? Too pretty to be an astronaut? No, but just I think because the plot is so thin and her character doesn't have much to do, we're basically watching this very beautiful woman like just being sort of photographed. Mm-hmm. And so I think
she's serving.
And I think that's how I felt, is like, oh, the main impression I'm getting from this character is that she's serving looks, which, for a motion picture.
It's not that she's too beautiful, it's that she looks really fresh. Because there are a lot of close-ups, even of, like, I was noticing her lips. I'm like, God, you seem really hydrated for what you're going through right now.
And then Aaron Paul, who I don't mind, but I don't know, the voice combined with the look, it just kind of felt like, I read that 2 other actors were slated for these roles originally, Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Tessa Thompson. I think I could see them maybe more than these 2.
Although, I mean, with the script by Jonni Remmler, which is also a first feature screenwriter, there's no tension between these 2 characters. I mean, we get that we should be suspicious of this man and who he says he is. It reminded me of another film I saw this year called Honey Bunch, where a woman's memory losses and the man's designs on her, are much more dangerous and toxic than you believe. But there's no kind of tension or face-off between them. Like, he's her only lifeline potentially, and there's no sparring kind of.
No, I think it's very obvious very quickly that something happened. She's probably involved, probably an alien life form or a indigenous creature is responsible. And then once we meet Aaron Paul's character, I think it's very obvious that, like, his intention is not to help her, but to save the mission. And then clearly the mission is not their mission, it's the mission of the parasite.
Crew expendable, as someone might say. The title also, Alien, I was like, oh, an Ian Holm as Ash origin story.
I will say the final act is where it picks up, and I thought the highlight of the story was we get the perspective of the indigenous creature, which looks like a big eyeball close up is how we're seeing it. And it's speaking a language to Riya, like, because it's part of her consciousness. So we're getting subtitles, but basically it's saying how, like, y'all are not going to come to our planet and take over. We're going to use you. And I thought, oh, that would be a really interesting basis for a movie, which this kind of is, but it really doesn't expound on it.
I think it's like that 10-minute segment. That's the psychedelic heights where everything comes together in a nice way. But that also reminded me of, we just saw Bong Joon-ho's Mickey 17, and the creature with the eye and the speaking and the subtitles.
The roly-polies.
The roly-polies, yeah. Not to harp on Alien, but when we get flashbacks of the crew, which Flying Lotus appears as one of the crew members, felt very much like the first Alien when they're gathered around eating. And then you have some genre stalwarts in there like Iko Uwais from the Raid films and Beulah Kwale, who I know was at the screening we were at as well, from Next Goal Wins. But they really have nothing to do. And it's like for the running time, it's like, I think this would have benefited from us feeling like the Alien films, where you learn about and feel something for the supporting characters, so that them being brutally murdered has an effect.
Yeah. I kind of almost wish the first act of the film would have been a flashback to all of them, whatever they're doing, and we don't know that something happened, because immediately we know that something's not right.
Well, her stumbling through these flashbacks that she's having, both of the murder and life on the ship, it just feels really repetitive and doesn't go anywhere.
That being said, I would watch this director's next film.
Yeah, I would as well. But I think the audience started really coming alive in the moment where Riya is extracting the parasite from her. And the way the parasite is operating on the humans that are trying to colonize the planet, that was also very much, there's an excellent Jack Shoulder film, the guy that did A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, The Hidden from 1987, with Kyle MacLachlan and Michael Nouri, where that parasite does exactly that. But the special effects, even in that 87 film, I felt were much better. But even how that mechanism with this parasitical organism works, that I've seen elsewhere. I don't know. I just wanted something to be heightened, and even if there are all those familiarities, at the very least, the dramatic stakes of the humans.
What would you give Ash?
Unfortunately, I found it, except for like that 10-minute segment I think is really good, I found it really dull. So a 2.
I have to be honest, I did have a hard time sitting through it. I would give it 2.5 out of 5. Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.